How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Geek-Stew, and today, guys, welcome back to Horror Stew. And today, for Horror Stew, we're actually taking a step down a similar path that we did last week, and we're talking about, yet again, another urban legend. Now, this urban legend is a little bit different. Obviously, the urban legends I've talked to up at this point are internet urban legends, and these are, they have a typical style from the internet. They're not super believable. Characters like Jeff the Killer and Slender Man aren't honestly that realistic. Don't get me wrong. I think that there are some crazy shit that happens in this world, but I don't necessarily believe that Slender Man or Jeff the Killer are real people. I think that they're just great stories that were created on the internet, and as time went on, we continue to see that transformation over time with different media forms and everything else, and it's great. But today we're actually going to be talking about an urban legend. This is an urban legend that comes to us all the way from Japan, and this is more of an urban legend that is passed down through parents to children as a scary story to tell in the dark. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about 8 feet tall, or Hachishakusama. Hachishakusama is an impossibly tall, 8 foot tall, I should say, apparition that wears a long white dress and a straw hat or some sort of flat billed hat of some sort that makes a sound like po, 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 po. So I found out about Hachishakusama as I was doing some research about different types of urban legends, trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about for today. And I found out about Hachishakusama, and I read the story, and I was sort of enthralled. The concept, the way that this apparition looks, the process, and the methodology is just very unique. And honestly, I think that this would make into a really great horror movie, which may be something we see someday. But specifically, there are a couple things that we need to talk about with Hachishakusama. Specifically, one is what happens if you interact with them. Is there a way to get away from Hachishakusama? And also, if you do come into contact with Hachishakusama, is there a ritual or something you can do to protect yourself from them? So let's start with that. Let's start here with what happens if you get in contact with Hachishakusama. So as mentioned, Hachishakusama is a Japanese urban legend, and there are a lot of really great stories about Hachishakusama, and I would love to read one for you, but a lot of them are pretty long, so I don't want to bore you on the details, but feel free at some point to do that. I also may look into reading one of these at a later time. Maybe. We'll see. But just a couple quick things about Hachishakusama. As mentioned, she often appears as an 8 foot tall woman with black hair, wears a white hat and a white dress with no shoes. Hachishakusama has a very distinct personality as well, so you'll have a very clear idea of when you're interacting with her. So to catch her victims, she stalks the children for some days, maybe months, and then when she stops, she takes the child and takes him or her away from the family, and then purportedly kills him or her. Now, the whole concept of Hachishakusama is sort of that there's this unknown, right? The Hachishakusama is, for lack of a better phrase, she's most definitely evil for all intents and purposes, and that's kind of what we're supposed to assume about Hachishakusama, is that she is to be this evil entity of some sort that stalks children and then takes them from their families. This is a relatively new actual urban legend, deeming to be originated from around the 2008 period. That being said, Hachishakusama, and here's some history regarding her to kind of also give you an idea of what we're dealing with. The 8 foot tall, the Hachishakusama, can vary from a withered hag akin to a beldam, if you've never heard of that, you can look that up, or an attractive woman, yet is always inhuman in terms of height. While her appearance varies between accounts, Most eyewitnesses have stated that she is dressed in a white summer dress and a white brimmed hat. 8 foot tall, attacks children, and does not bother with adult prey. That is said to be due to the fact that children are still dependent on older family members, which 8 foot fall can mimic in order to lure their victims away. 8 foot fall appears to be very similar to numerous other Japanese demons in the fact that she is usually seen dressed in white with long black hair and is always female. This may have something to do with ancient Japanese folklore having female ghosts, onryo, that often sought revenge on the living or grew malicious after death. The same legend inspired fictional monsters like Sadako Yamamura, Samara Morgan, and Kayako Saeki. For those who don't know, Samara Morgan is the character from The Ring, white dress, black hair. So it seems pretty standard for a Japanese urban legend. As I mentioned, this was starting to kind of come around in the 2008 period. But the concept of this has been around for a very long time. One of the great things about urban legends and mythos is that they tend to come from deep-rooted fears within a culture. A lot of our modern urban legends in the United States honestly surround around that of these impossible animal creatures, right? Not necessarily impossible per se, but these very unique and very creepy creatures, such as the Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, the Yeti, skinwalkers. Things like that are always are sort of like that primal fear for us because they're these unknown animalistic creatures. So in Japan, it's sort of like that. They have this ancient tradition of depicting ghosts or vengeful demons as when. I don't think I've ever heard a Japanese urban legend revolving around a male entity, a male ghost or a vengeful spirit, or even like a male demon. They always seem to appear like females in like that Japanese culture. I think the only male one that I can think of is possibly a samurai-related oni or something of that nature. But that being said, there are a lot of really interesting, interesting perspectives to draw on this story. But the next thing we need to talk about is, how do you get rid of a Hachishakusama? Can you get away from them, or are you stuck with them forever? So I guess, let's say you happen to be in Japan, and you just happen to fall victim to Hachishakusama. What do you need to do to hopefully get rid of her? Well, you have two options. Get the fuck out, or really hope and pray that you have the necessary materials to do a ritual of some sort. Well, and what I mean by get the fuck out is you need to leave Japan. Basically, the concept of Hachishakusama, from every story that I've read, is that she's very localized. Hachishakusama specifically haunts these areas because there's a shrine or some sort of grave built for her. That being said, Hachishakusama won't follow you out of Japan, which is very nice of her to be landlocked, but unfortunately, it would be very difficult for you to get out of Japan unless you were left right away. That being said, there is a way to possibly contain and or prevent her from taking you. And this is the story as it was told. If the target, the child or person who is being targeted by Hachishakusama, tells a knowledgeable and trustworthy adult about their initial encounter with the subject, this adult may stage an intervention. For the first step of this intervention, the room should be prepared. The windows should be covered with newspaper, salt should be scattered in each corner, and a small wooden box with a Buddha statue should be provided. Target should be given a paper charm. A second charm should also be hung on the newspaper covering the windows, and the target must remain in the prepared room through the night until 7 o'clock in the morning. The target may not leave the room during this time, neither may anyone enter the room. Target must not open the door or window to anyone, regardless as to what they may hear. Be warned, subject may pose as a trusted adult, assuring target that it is safe to open the door. However, subject should not be heeded. The door and windows must remain firmly shut and locked. Should the suspect begin tapping, slapping, or hitting the windows or emitting the pull noise heard during the target's first encounter with it, target may pray to the Buddha statue for protection. The prepared room and the target's time within it is a stopgap measure. Their purpose is to provide the adult staging the intervention time with which to assemble the materials and personnel required for a more permanent solution. Materials include at least 2 paper charms, a van capable of seating 9 passengers in the back 3 rows, plus the driver and 1 additional passenger on the front seat. Personnel include 8 adult blood relatives of target, a driver, and a person of spiritual or holy significance. This person of spiritual or holy significance must be familiar with a specific chant required for the forthcoming events. Target should be seated in the center of the van with each of the 8 relatives in the seats in front of, next to, and behind the target. Driver should assume that the driver's position and the holy or spiritual person should be seated in the front passenger seat. The target should hold a paper charm. Target should also close their eyes and keep their face pointed down. Target should not at any point open their eyes or lift their face. The driver should begin driving. The holy or spiritual person should begin their chanting, and subject may begin tapping, slapping, or hitting or pounding on the windows of the van. Target should not open their eyes. And target, lift their face or look at the subject. If target's charm turns black, subject should be provided with another charm. If tapping, slapping, hitting, or pounding of the van windows eventually subsides and ceases, then the intervention may be deemed a success. However, target should assume they are safe in perpetuity. Target would do well not to return to the location of the first encounter ever. Conversely, subject prime may be contained by simply avoiding the story as it appears on 2chan or 4chan. For effective containment, target should refrain from reading, sharing, or translating subject prime. So that's kind of a lot to digest, isn't it? There's a lot that goes into it, but there's an entire process that is built and in relation to how to contain Hachishakusama. Now, obviously, this is a story. Okay, I don't know if this is real or what the case may be, but what I will tell you is this: if this is real, and if this has any truth or bearing whatsoever, this is creepy, genuinely speaking. I mean, this is a horrifying situation, and it almost seems impossible to basically stop Hachishakusama. Obviously, given the contents of the story and the measures, it seems as if this is a unholy being because it requires certain holy charms and holy intervention, if you will. But that being said, it's very interesting that this story was created, and honestly, there's a whole other story outside of just this information I'm providing you. There's a whole folklore. There's even a story that was the originating story about Hachishakusama that's really interesting. And I also think it's interesting that if you just get the fuck out, then you're good. But but that being said, I kind of want to phase into final thoughts. We've talked about what Hachishakusama is. We've gone through a description, what they do, what they look like, some background, and then of course we went over how to prevent you from being taken and or killed by Hachishakusama. But now I want to formulate some final thoughts, so let's move into those. So final thoughts, guys. I really just kind of wanted to do a little wrap on what we've already talked about. Hachishakusama is a very creepy character, and a very creepy, creepypasta, whatever you want to call it, urban legend. And she's a little bit different, I feel like, from characters like Slender Man or that of Jeff the Killer, because there's almost some historical significance with the character. That historical significance coming from, specifically in this case, how Japan and how other countries over in the East, if you will, how they represent these characters, how they represent ghosts, vengeful spirits, demons, and it's very interesting to see one such as Hachishakusama. That being said, I think it was really interesting that, anytime that we have these legends or tales, there's always a very, I would say, very specific and unique method in which to get rid of them, typically involving some sort of holy item or holy individual, some sort of significance of that nature. Very interesting for me, very unique, very characterful, and very well crafted, if you ask me. That being said, I think it's interesting, and I definitely would recommend anybody out there who's interested, go read the original story. There's a lot of other details in there that I couldn't include in this because, it's a lot more than just what I said. There's a whole story, and honestly, it's really great. I read it, obviously, preparing for this. And there's also a lot of other details online. There's all kinds of places that list her as a villain or an evil person, and they always talk about it. But the one thing I didn't really find was the origin of Hachishakusama. Nothing really gave me a clear origin as to where they came from. Basically that they are just there, they do this, they do that, but not necessarily any kind of like origination, if you will. But regardless of that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love talking about urban legends and different stories from around the world. Definitely one of the creepier ones that I've read in a while. Hachishakusama is entirely a new beast, if you will. And if you guys did enjoy this, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you guys want to see more stuff like this, let me know. And of course, if you guys want to join the Geek-Stew crew, let us know in the comment section, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. Links for that are going to be at the end of the video and in the comment section down below. I'm sorry, not comment section, the description down below. And as always, guys, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay awesome. We will see you in the next one. See ya.